It's another beautiful day on the Battle for Azeroth Beta, and today we're taking a look at Blizzard's new attempt at the Survival Hunter, and they actually seem to be nailing it this time around. They're actually a lot of fun, so I'll be going over how the new Survival Hunter works. So we'll be taking a look at the new talents and the reworked abilities, and I'll give you my 2 cents on the gameplay. Again, this is my personal opinion, so just because I say it's awesome sauce doesn't mean you will think so as well. So this will be a longer video. There's a lot of ground to cover, a lot of things that has been renewed. And again, this is beta testing, so it's subject to change, but it will probably not change all that much. And if you like these kind of videos, make sure to hit that subscribe button and let's get on with the video. So let's go over to the spellbook and what has happened there. So let's start off with our core rotational abilities. And here we have Kill Command, Raptor Strike, Serpent Sting, Wildfire Bomb, and Carve. So Kill Command is our generator. It generates 15 focus and deals a bit of damage. It has a 25% chance to reset when used. And this actually works pretty well, and it mixes in that proc-based RNG to the rotation. And Raptor Strike, our main spender. It costs 30 focus and deals a ton of damage. So nothing fancy here. Have focus, spend focus. And Serpent Sting is back. Hunters rejoice. It costs 20 focus, deals a bit of instant damage, and leaves a dot on the enemy. So just make sure you have it up at all time. And the fancy new Bomba, Wildfire Bomb. So it's on a 18-second cooldown, and you hurl a bomb at your target, dealing X amount of fire damage in a cone, and it leaves a dot that lasts for 5 seconds on every enemy hit by it. There's no targeting circle. It does a fair bit of damage on single target and a bunch of damage on AoE, especially with the new Carve ability. And on that note, let's take a look at Carve. So it's our AoE spender. Costs 30 focus just like Raptor Strike, and it's on a 6-second cooldown. It deals a bit of damage to all targets in front of you, but more importantly, it reduces the remaining cooldown on Wildfire Bomb by 1 second for each target hit. And it can be reduced to a maximum of 5 seconds. And this just makes our AoE rotation a lot more fun and fluid, keeping your standard rotation swapping Raptor Strike for Carve every now and then, and spamming bombs at the poor bastards that stands in our way. So it works really well, and it's very fun to play with, especially when you empower your Wildfire Bomb with some of the talents that I will go over later. And on top of that, our cooldowns have been refreshed a bit, so we have the new weird aspect of the Eagle. So it's on a 1.5 minute cooldown, and it increases the range of our Raptor Strike by 40 yards for 15 seconds. So getting over the fact that it's a pretty weird cooldown, it's actually pretty dang awesome, and you can do a lot of cool things with it. Seeing how most of our abilities are ranged, popping this effectively makes us ranged. The only thing we miss out on is our auto swings. Sure, it's a damage loss to be ranged even with this, but not by that much. So on high mobility fights where you have to run away from the boss, swap targets and stuff like that, this will be really handy. Plus it looks dope. I mean, you throw eagles at your target, so yeah, there's that. Moving on, we got Coordinated Assault as a cooldown now. It increases the damage done by you and your pet by 20%, and your Kill Command has an additional 25% chance to reset on use. It's up for 20 seconds, and it's on a 2-minute cooldown, so pop this, do more damage, and regen more focus due to being able to get more Kill Commands out. All in all, a pretty solid cooldown. I mean, it's fun to see back-to-back procs on Kill Command, and more damage is always more damage. And our Mastery has been reworked as well, so it's now called Spirit Bond. It increases the damage of you and your pet's focus spending abilities by X amount, and while a pet is active, you and your pet regen a bit of health, so nothing fancy here, mo mastery, mo damage. And we've got Misdirect, Hunters rejoice. Now you can ignore using it on one additional spec. Jokes aside, this is awesome. Since the threat changes that has been made in Battle for Azeroth, anything that can help out your tank is going to make it easier for you. Threat generation for tanks has been slashed by 80%, unless they've changed it recently. So any kind of misdirect, tricks of the trade, etc. is going to ensure that you can go guns blazing into any pack, as well as help out your fellow DPSers in any dungeon. And on that note, a public service announcement. You have misdirect, so use it. It will make life so much easier for you, your party, and especially your tank. Be nice to the poor tanks, we're a dying breed. And on top of all of these changes, we have all the changes to how our pets work. The new command pet and a more streamlined approach to the pet damage and their abilities. And if you want to know more about all the pet changes in Battle for Azeroth, make sure to check out my BM Hunter video where I cover all the pet changes more in depth. And I will link it in the descriptions below, as well as in the end of this video. So our core rotation is pretty damn fun right now, and it can of course be further improved and changed with talents. So on that note, let's take a look at the new talents for survival hunters. There's been a major overhaul here, so let's check it out. Starting off with the 15 row, we have Viper's Venom, Terms of Engagement, and Alpha Predator. First out is Viper's Venom. Raptor Strike has a chance to make our next Serpent Sting free and deal 300% additional initial damage, so not the actual dot, just the first smack. It's a really nice talent overall, especially if you like procs. Seems to have a pretty high proc chance. Rarely, if ever, do I have to spend focus on Serpent Sting to refresh it on single target. Just pop it when it procs. And Terms of Engagement. Harpoon deals X amount of damage and generates 40 focus over 10 seconds. Killing an enemy resets the cooldown of your harpoon. For questing and world content, I can see this being pretty dang good. Maybe on a few high mobility fights, but I mean, we'll see how it pans out in the end. And Alpha Predator. Kill command now has 2 charges and deals 30% more damage. Pretty nice to have charges on your kill command. It gives us more control over how and when to pop it, because it procs like crazy sometimes, and during those lucky streaks it will still recharge in the background. Not sure which one of these will come out on top, but I've mostly been running Viper's Venom. Feels good to have that bursty proc and not having to use focus to refresh the dot. And the 30s row, Guerrilla Tactics, Hydra's Bite, and Butchery. So, Guerrilla Tactics, your Wildfire Bomb now has 2 charges, and the initial explosion deals 100% more damage. So, more bombs and more damage with them. Works very well with Wildfire Infusion, one of our last row talents that I will go over a bit later. So, let's take a look at Hydra's Bite. Serpent Sting fires at 2 additional enemies near your target, and its dot deals 10% more damage. Pretty dope on cleave, and it works very well with Viper's Venom. You can spend those Serpent Sting procs on multiple targets, which is pretty damn crazy, and it does an absolute shit ton of damage. And then we have Butchery. It replaces Carve. It costs 20 focus and you get 3 charges. It deals a shit ton of bursty damage on all targets within 8 yards. However, it does not lower the cooldown of your Wildfire Bombs anymore. So it's extremely good for bursty on-demand AoE, like a boss fight that has a couple of ads that spawn every now and then. Because you won't use Butchery or Carve on single target, but when the mobs spawn and you have those free stacks and you can just go ham on them. And I personally love this row. Lots of choices to be made depending on the content you're running or what kind of boss fights, etc. If you need burst, there's Butchery. If you need sustain, there's Hydra's Bite. And if you want to be able to min-max a bit more with Wildfire Infusion, there's Guerrilla Tactics. Moving on, 45, we have Trailblazer, Natural Mending, and Camouflage. So Trailblazer, your movement speed is increased by 30% when you haven't attacked in 3 seconds. And Natural Mending, every 20 focus spent reduces the cooldown on acceleration by 1 second. So pretty nice for some increased survivability, some on-demand healing. And Camouflage, you and your pet stealths and regain a bit of HP during it. 1 minute cooldown and you can be in stealth for 1 minute. Not much to say about these, depends on the content you're running. Natural Mending might see some more use in raids and dungeon due to more self-sustain, but other than that, it's kinda whatever. And the 60s row, more fun stuff. So we have Bloodseeker, Steel Trap, and the Crows. Bloodseeker, kill command applies a bleed that lasts for 8 seconds. And you and your pet gain 10% attack speed per target within 12 yards of you that's currently bleeding. So more bleeds, more attack speed. So this one will be especially nice on cleave fights where you'll be able to have 2 free stacks up on this a lot of the time. And And it works pretty damn well with the Alpha Predator talent if you want to have an easier time to keep the bleed up on multiple targets, but in the end, it depends on how lucky you are with the procs. And Steel Trap if you missed throwing traps. It's on a 30-sec cooldown, hurl a steel trap which immobilizes the first target hit for 20 seconds. And it also applies a bleed that deals X amount of damage over 20 seconds. Any damage other than the steel trap bleed may break the immobilization effect. So for some added crowd control, it's pretty nice, and the dot is applied even if the target is immune to the actual CC. And then we have ye old Murder of Crows. Nothing new here to be honest. Cost 30 focus, it's on a 1-minute cooldown and it deals some damage over 15 seconds. I'm a bit unsure about the tuning currently, cause at the moment Steel Trap does a lot more damage than Murder of Crows and has a lower cooldown. And it costs no focus. So a bit of a tuning issue I guess. Bloodseeker is a bit hard to gauge at the moment, but it's fun to play around with, trying to have kill command bleed up on multiple targets and stuff like that. Moving on, 75. Born to be Wild, Post Haste and Binding Shot. So Born to be Wild reduces the cooldown of your aspects by 20%. So Cheetah, Turtle and Eagle. So you'll be able to have your utility and survival cooldowns up a bit more often, which is always nice. And Post Haste is still Post Haste. Disengage removes movement impairing effects and increases your movement speed by 50%, and it lasts for 4 seconds. And the slightly reworked Binding Shot. So you fire an arrow at the ground and the enemies that move more than 5 yards away from the arrow gets rooted for 5 seconds. So it works the same way as the old one, but it roots instead of stuns. And I'm not sure why they felt the need to change this. My guess is that it was due to it being a bit harder to utilize as a reliable AoE stun, and it seemed a lot of people had a hard time to actually trigger it reliably, or just didn't care to trigger it. Tanks rarely moved the mobs to trigger the stun in pogs, or knockbacks were rarely used, stuff like that. So instead of making it easier to use, they made it worse. But that's just my theory. It will still be useful when you need to kite and stuff like that, but yeah. And the 90s, so we have Tip of the Spear, Mongoose Bite and Flanking Strike. So, Tip of the Spear, kill command increases the damage of your next raptor strike by 15% and it stacks up to 3 times. So it's just a flat DPS increase. Very nice that it stacks so you don't get punished for having back-to-back kill command procs, but that also means that there's nothing to play around with. Sometimes you deal a lot more damage and sometimes a little bit more damage. And Mongoose Bite is back for all of you who were going to miss it. So it replaces Raptor Strike as a spender and works pretty much the same way as it does in Legion. Every time you use Mongoose Bite, you get a buff that increases the damage of Mongoose Bite by 20% and lasts for 14 seconds. It stacks up to 5 times, and using Mongoose Bite does not refresh the duration of the buff. So the idea is to get as many Mongoose Bites as possible crammed into this 14-second window. And there's a few different approaches to this, will differ a bit depending on talents and stuff like that. All in all, it's pretty damn fun to play with. It feels a lot less clunky than it does in Legion, mostly due to the fact that you don't have 1 billion things to keep up while you juggle the Mongoose buff. And Flanking Strike is now a talent. You and your pet leap to the target and strike it as one, dealing X amount of damage, and it generates 30 focus instantly for both you and your pet. Not sure if you meant to be able to actually leap to the target, but it's not doing that right now at least. So you deal a bit of damage and you gain a bit of focus. So taking a look at this row, again, the fun part here is that it depends on the content you're running. For cleave and AoE, I'd probably go with Tip of the Spear, and for pure single target, Mongoose Bite. Flanking Strike, currently I'd probably brush under the carpet, but we'll see how the tuning turns out in the end. And the last row, Birds of Prey, Wildfire Infusion and Chakrams. So Birds of Prey, attacking your pet's target with Raptor Strike or Carve extends the duration of Coordinated Assault, your cooldown, by 1 second. So this just allows you to have a longer uptime on your big cooldown. So nothing fancy, just spam that Raptor and do more damage. And then we're taking a jump to Chakrams. You throw a pair of Chakrams hitting all enemies in their path for X amount of damage, and as they return to you, they will damage enemies hit once again. And your primary target will always take 100% increased damage from this, and it costs 30 focus, it's on a 20-sec cooldown. Looks cool, but doesn't do that much damage damage compared to the other talents. And then we take a look at Wildfire Infusion, and this will be a bit of a longer rant because there's a lot to cover with it. So Wildfire Infusion, it changes how your Wildfire Bomb works. Every time you use Wildfire Bomb, it will randomly change to a new type of bomb. And it can become either Shrapnel, Pheromone, or Volatile Bomb. So for example, using say Pheromone Bomb will turn your Wildfire Bomb ability into either Shrapnel or Volatile. And this seemed to be 100% random during the bit of testing I did. And these free bombs do different things. They still do impact damage and they still leave a dot on the enemies for 5 seconds. So Shrapnel Bomb, Raptor Strike, Mongoose Bite, Carve, and Butchery apply a bleed that lasts for 9 seconds. This bleed stacks up to 3 times. And Pheromone Bomb, Kill Command has 100% chance to reset its cooldown when used against targets coated with pheromones. And then we have Volatile Bomb. It causes an extra explosion when used on targets with the Serpent Sting dot, and it also refreshes the duration of Serpent Sting. So depending on what bomb you're currently able to use, your rotation and how you approach it will change to some extent. So let's take a closer look at Shrapnel Bomb. So during the short window the debuff is up, you're able to apply a stacking bleed. So naturally you want to make sure to be able to get at least 3 Raptor Strikes out during this debuff to make sure that you maximize the bleed damage. So you want to make sure you're almost capped on focus when this bomb goes off cooldown so you'll be able to utilize it right away. Same thing during AoE. If you have say Butchery, you want to be able to use at least 2 of them right after popping this bomb. And with a bit of gear or haste, we might be able to get 2 Carves out during the window if we're not running Butchery. Moving on to Pheromone Bomb. So during the 5 seconds this is up, any kill command you use on that target will instantly reset the cooldown on your kill command. So you can pretty much spam kill command during this window, and seeing how kill command is a generator now, you want to have close to no focus before popping this one. So knowing that your next bomb is the Pheromone one enables you to just spam Raptor Strike, deplete your focus, pop it, and generate it super fast with kill command spam. And on top of that, it synergizes really well with the Mongoose Bite talent, allowing you to be able to get even more Mongoose Bites out during its 14-second window. And then we have the Volatile Bomb. It doesn't change how we approach our rotation that much. You just want to make sure that the target or targets it hits have Serpent Sting on them so it does its second explosion. And on top of that explosion, it also refreshes the duration of the Serpent Sting dot, so on AoE it's an absolute beast. And there's so many more tiny things you can do with this talent depending on what other talents you're running or content and stuff like that. It's just so much fun. So I'm not sure which of the last row talents will come out on top in the end, but I'll be pretty damn pissed if Wildfire isn't the top tier. It's just so much fun to play with and it feels so rewarding. It should be baseline due to how freaking good it is. I mean, gameplay wise, I love this talent. It doesn't even compare to the other talents in this row. It just puts him to shame, and that's the bittersweet part of it. Because if it's not good on launch, you'll be missing out on a really fun talent. And if it's on par or a tiny bit better than the other talent, then there's just no choice anymore. Fantastic talent, wish it was baseline. Should get a hashtag running, hashtag pray for baseline, send it to Blizzard. But all in all, they've done a fantastic job with this reworked Survival Hunter. It's so much fun to play with. It has a good toolkit, a fast pace, and the right amount of RNG and procs. It has a fantastic talent tree in my opinion. Sure, some talents are a bit but all of them doesn't have to be batshit amazing. It's enough with most of them. So for me, they've absolutely redeemed themselves with this new iteration of the Survival Hunter. May it reign supreme. And that's it for this look at the brand new Survival Hunter. If you have any questions at all, make sure to hit me up in the comments below. And if you like this kind of content, make sure to hit that subscribe button, leave me a like. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.